Everything comes in a trend. Clothing, music, woodwork, design, structures. What was cool yesterday simply isn't today, but will be tomorrow. Theaters, like malls and bowling alleys, were on the downhill slope, with new technologies bringing ease to the viewers at the comfort of their own home. But then, 2020 hit. Theaters closed, movies weren't made, everything stopped. Now, with it in the rearview mirror, and films coming to a theater near you, it's time to get back to the movies. Berwick, a small town located in northeast PA. Home to a theater that's been a staple in the community for decades.
So tell us a little bit about the Berwick Theater and Center for Community Arts.
Well, we are a nonprofit organization that is a movie theater and also a cultural, what we're striving for is to be a cultural arts center. And so we are also show live shows here, and it can be rented as a venue for parties or corporate events, lectures, so on and so forth. So
can you tell us a little bit of the history behind it?
You know, older buildings and businesses, it's interesting because there will be a very specific and solid history. But you would think that for a movie theater, and you've been here for such a long time, that there would be a lot of information. And it was really actually kind of challenging to get all of the details going back. What we do know is that in the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was an opera house. And then as time went on and they had vaudeville, live shows. And then of course the movies came in the 20s. They were showing silent films and there was a fire. So there was that decision whether they were going to tear down the building or if they would continue it as a movie theater. But there was some people that were very vested in and wanted to support it as a theater. So they decided to put money into it and completely redo it. And so they had a very grand 3-day celebration, and Mickey Carpet, they donated carpet and they changed the flooring and everything else like that. And so that was in the early 1930s. And so it was a Strand Theater up until the late 60s when the theater was purchased by Vincent d'Augustine. He had a haberdashery, which is a great word, right? that was downtown there had been a fire and he had lost his business. And so he had a business next door. And then when this became an opportunity to purchase it, he purchased it. And he was the owner until his death. And so it's been in the family since the late 60s. And so what you see now, structurally was when there were renovations done at that time.
Go digital, go dark was a real issue. Like how close was it to actually not like the theater not being open?
Well, I was not here at the time, so I'm not sure. I didn't exactly what they went through, but I am sure that
close,
it was very, very close. I think that probably a lot of theaters ended up going under because of it. And fortunately, that was a really smart move to become a nonprofit. And Renee was on the board, for quite a few years. And so was her father. So, and they're still kind of, certainly the memory of Renee and Vince are here all the time. I don't think that's ever going to go away, thankfully. And then her father also is a big help to us whenever we need him.
So you mind showing us around? We got some pretty cool artifacts here and in this theater and just
saying
some cool historical facts about it?
Sure, I would love to.
We didn't have to go far to get to our first theater stop.
So we do like to keep this out and remind people of the artist that made this mural. And it's very familiar to anyone who has been at the theater and visited us over the years and generations. So, and actually Angelo just had his birthday. He's still with us and we had his name up on the marquee. So I think it's a great historic part of our theater.
Well, plus it shows just the history of who the people were back then when they painted it, because our known actors right now have obviously changed from the John Waynes of the world.
Can you imagine Tom Cruise up there? Ting!
We need more murals.
How he is, right? Well, someone had recommended putting Vince, doing one of Vince, which I think is a great idea. I would love to add him maybe right in there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, excited about it.
So where to next?
All right. So as I had said, this had been the concessions originally, and we had volunteers that helped to create the concessions here. What had happened is there had been a wall here that you could look over and see the screen, and the seats came back further. But this works out so much better because when people come in, they're able to, line up there. So this was originally up in the center room and upstairs, and it was one of the projectors that was used here. We even have the manual to it, the original manual. It's actually two different projectors.
Do you know the possible year?
I think it was probably the 1940s, late 1930s. We did have a fellow come here who's, doing maintenance on our projector, and he was explaining to me the way that it works. And, because they used to use a flame in here, and which is why you would have if the film, when you see it melts and things like that, it would get very hot in here. So as much as I wonder how did they ever do that, where they had to splice the film and put it together and switch over the reels and things like that, I think each technique has its own pros and cons. So
I feel that with my phone every day.
Right, exactly.
Or
you're like, why is this not happening right away? It's only going to out into the universe and bouncing back at us, but we want it now.
Siri doesn't talk to me, but talks to everybody else.
Right, exactly. And now we can go into the theater. So our theater, up to this point, up until a few years ago, we've just been showing films. And we would try to do live events here, but it was always a challenge because the fact is a movie theater is going to be dark. It's going to have the slanted floor and things like that. But we're so thrilled to actually bring it back to what it was originally when there was vaudeville here. And so we had gotten funding from the Community Foundation. The Central Susquehanna Community Foundation gave us funding to build our stage. And so we have professional lights and sound. And we have begun to now, we were supposed to start having live shows here right before the pandemic happened. So, which we'll discuss it later, I'm sure. But we also used that funding to put in lights, floor lighting, which we had needed. And yeah, it's a wonderful place for seeing films. We're still very affordable. It's one of our goals is wanting to stay affordable for families.
Do you remember the year that this was re-renovated with the seats and all? Because that was just within the past
2015,
4 or 5 years?
2015, 16. We became a nonprofit in 2014. But then, of course, the process of getting funding and volunteering and things like that. But they had put up, redid the walls, and we had this wonderful new screen. And then, I think that these seats were donated from Central Columbia because they were getting new seats. And so we have these. Now, we don't have cup holders, but, these are awesome seats. We're very excited we have a lot of shows coming up, so.
So the pandemic obviously affected a lot of businesses.
Yes.
Yours, obviously, the movie theater was shut down. That was one of the things, whether it was AMC, Regal, or whatever.
Right.
How did this theater deal with the pandemic?
It was, well, one thing I will say is right before we were closed, we were supposed to be having our first show, a live show on the stage. And I think that, like everyone else, everyone was just in shock and just trying to acclimate to it and figure out how do you survive and keep going. We received grants, and I would say that's the thing that kept us going through all of this, and it actually gave us opportunities to fix the theater and to be able to stay open. But we started very gradually, but it was tough though, obviously. I mean, we were, you don't really know 100% what the results were going to be, as it was for everyone else. And so luckily all the staff came back, and, we slowly opened where we would only open on a Saturday because we didn't know. And we had restrictions on the percentage of people that you could have in here. So we basically were able to have like a maximum of 25 people in the theater, which of course, when you try to figure, you know, how much it costs to even turn the lights on. And, you
At
know,
that point, it's like, is it worth it?
Exactly. But it was, because I think morale and just, you know, showing that we were here, and that, and again, because we did receive help from, you know, the Central Susquehanna Community Foundation, which is now the Giving Foundation, you know, that helped us tremendously. There were some other foundations that we received grants from, and also the community itself and donations. And we did have, a drive-up popcorn on Saturdays and things like that, because we do have the best popcorn in the area, by the way. And so it, you know, those are things, the little things, and I guess making sure that people remembered that we were here, you know, because, I think that we all became very reclusive, and the fact that, you know, this is the most out there around people place that you could come to, right? And sitting in here for 2 hours with people and things. But it was, we got through it. And again, now we're open, our schedule Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. We have a senior matinee on Wednesdays at 1. We have a Sunday matinee. And I would say, and people still love to go to the movies. I know you can stream it. I know there's wonderful home systems, like movie systems and things, but there is nothing like the experience of going to the movie. Grabbing the kiddos, coming to the theater on a Saturday night, Friday or Saturday, and watching a movie on the big screen. There's nothing like it. And we have the great surround sound too. So,
was there a certain day where you're like, we're back?
You really didn't know. And plus there weren't a lot to choose from. I mean, the studios were very tentative of it. They would say they were going to release a film, and then they would postpone it. And even now, like Top Gun was supposed to be out, you know, and now it's coming out the end of May, I think so. Yeah. So I think that, you know, and again, you just didn't know, because then a week later you could play something and not have a lot of people show up. But our goal was, we were going to stay open. You know, once we did open up, we were going to stay open. And whether it was just 1 day a week, or if it's 5 days a week, you know, and as long as people come to the door, keep coming. That's what, you know, that's why we're here.
Final question. What comes next?
I would say are focusing on having live shows and more art programming. We really want to start having classes here, and just letting people know that we're available. And we're available if an artist wanted to come here and teach classes, or, you know, if, you know, an organization, we have school visits, the YMCA, they bring the kids here, you know, to see films and things like that. So we're just growing and growing and branching out into more things than just film. We will always be the Berwick Theater, showing awesome movies and, great family entertainment, but we really are going to continue to make that happen on bigger levels and more variety. So,
but there was one last thing we had to do.
I'm really hoping I don't drop one.
I think you got it. Yes, there you go. You got it. So you're going to go right over there and reach down. And again, you just want to make sure it hooks onto these little rails.
This is easier.
I may have to hire you. Yes, it is much easier, except when it's raining or snowing.
Get back to the movies.